Welcome to NFL Nexus. Today, we are diving deep into a really high-stakes standoff happening in New York. We're talking about a star player versus the front office and the absolutely radical draft day plan it could force the Giants to make. This whole story is about money, it's about leverage, and it's really about the fundamental structure of NFL contracts. It's a fascinating one, so you're going to want to make sure you subscribe to NFL Nexus to stay up to date with all of our deep dives. You know, this single quote says it all. It's from the Giants' new head coach, John Harbaugh, and he said it on his very first official day. That just perfectly captures the tension at the heart of this story. He knew this was coming. He's talking about his cornerstone defensive player, Dexter Lawrence. Yeah, but he's also talking about a much bigger systemic issue that is just boiling over right now in New York. Okay, let's get into this. $500,000, that is the amount of money that defensive tackle Dexter Lawrence just forfeited by skipping a single, quote, voluntary team workout. Just let that sink in for a second. This isn't just about missing a practice. This is a calculated, it's a public, and it is a very expensive message he's sending to the front office. He is making it painfully clear that he is dead serious, and he is more than willing to put his money where his mouth is. And that brings us right to Act 1 of our story, the $90 million standoff. To really get how we got here, we need to look at the central conflict. It involves a true cornerstone player, a massive contract that, trust me, is not what it seems, and a demand that puts the entire Giants franchise on red alert. This crisis didn't just pop up out of thin air. Let's take a look at the timeline, because it tells the story. Back in May of 2023 was all celebration. Lawrence signs this huge 4-year, $90 million extension. He's the face of the defense, right? Okay, now fast forward less than 3 years to April 7th, 2026, and he officially demands a trade. The very next morning, boom, he skips those workouts and gives up that $500,000 bonus. This is a calculated escalation, turning what was a celebratory signing into a full-blown crisis. Now, what's really interesting here is the disconnect. This is the root of the entire conflict. Just look at his value. 2 All-Pro selections. I mean, that puts him in the absolute elite tier of NFL players, not just at his position. He's considered a top 10 interior pass rusher even in what was supposedly a down year for him. But then you look at his pay. He ranks just 11th among players at his own position. Can you imagine being one of the best in the world at your job with the awards to prove it, but 10 other guys doing the same thing are making more money than you? That's the frustration that's driving this whole thing. And his value isn't just about the awards. It's about his tangible, you can see it on Sunday impact. He's a 3-time Pro Bowler who has spent his entire 7-year career with the Giants. That's a rare show of loyalty in today's NFL. And get this, even in 2025, a year that was described as a career worst with pretty low sack and tackle numbers, advanced metrics still graded him as a top 10 interior pass rusher in the entire league. That just shows you his disruption goes way beyond the stat sheet. And the reporting is explicit. When he left the field, the Giants' defense struggled mightily. The team simply collapses without him, and believe me, that gives him immense leverage. So to really wrap our heads around why this is all happening right now, we need to move to Act 2 and look inside the contract trap. I mean, on the surface, $90 million sounds incredibly secure. But the fine print of that deal, it reveals a trap for both the player and for the team that was set years ago. The answers are all in the details. Okay, so here it is. This is the crucial point. Look at that column that says guaranteed. For 2024 and 2025, his money was secure. It was locked in. But look at 2026 and 2027, the guaranteed money has completely run out. That means Lawrence has zero financial security for the final 2 years of his deal. The Giants can cut him at any point and owe him absolutely nothing. This kind of contract structure, which is really common in the NFL, is designed to protect the team, but it also incentivizes exactly what Lawrence is doing, forcing the issue before he loses all of his leverage. And this just brilliantly illustrates that Lawrence isn't just angry. He is executing a new, very modern playbook for a contract holdout. And you better believe agents all across the league are taking notes. Step 1, you target the unguaranteed years where you have no security. Step 2, you weaponize a moment of transition. He made his demand on John Harbaugh's first day. I mean, that is maximum surgical pressure. Step 3, you forfeit that so-called voluntary money to make a very costly, very public statement. And finally, step 4, you force a public standoff through the media that pushes the team to either renegotiate or trade you. This is a masterclass in how to use leverage. It's a fair question, right? It's probably what you're thinking right now. A two-time All-Pro, a dominant force at a critical position, shouldn't there be a long line of contenders just banging down the door to trade for him? But the answer to this question, well, it reveals the real trap that the Giants and Lawrence himself are actually in. You see, the math just doesn't work. Look at this. Lawrence's base salary for 2026 alone is $18.5 million. Now look at the Jacksonville Jaguars, who were seen as the most logical trade partner. They have just under $6 million in salary cap space. And they are not unique. Most of the other contenders, the Bears, the Raiders, the Bengals, they're all in a similar boat, pressed right up against that financial wall. The salary cap doesn't care if you need a player. It only cares about dollars and cents. And here's the killer detail. The Jaguars, they basically closed the door on this trade before it could even be discussed. Just a few weeks before Lawrence demanded out, Jacksonville committed a massive $110 million to extend their own pass rusher, Trayvon Walker. That one single deal ate up all the cap flexibility that could have made a trade for Lawrence possible. The most logical landing spot was taken off the board before the phone calls even started. So this leaves the Giants completely caught between a rock and a hard place. With no viable trade partners who can afford him and a disgruntled superstar who is essential to their defense, they're facing an impossible choice, and there is no easy way out. This whole predicament leaves them with two pretty terrible options, and each one has serious consequences. Okay, option one, cave and restructure the deal. They can add guaranteed money to those final 2 years. This would actually save them a few million in cap space in 2026, but it extends their commitment and, maybe more importantly, it sets a dangerous precedent. Every other star player on the team with a similar contract will be lining up at the GM's door next. So option two, hold firm and trade him. But because of the cap issues we just talked about, they'd have to accept a diminished return, maybe a late first-round pick, maybe a second. And in the meantime, their defense would absolutely crater, and John Harbaugh's new staff loses all credibility before they even coach a single game. There is no winning move here. Now, before we get into the Giants' potential escape plan through the draft, I do want to mention a quick way you can help support what we do here at the channel. If you're looking for a fun and relaxing way to unwind, we've actually created a whole line of NFL coloring books. They're perfect for children, grandchildren, and honestly, even for adults. You can check them out through the link in the description or by using the QR code that's on your screen. Your support really does help us create more of these deep dive explainers. Okay, so that brings us to the final act of this whole drama, rebuilding through the draft. With their defensive anchor likely gone, with no money to sign an elite replacement, and with very limited trade options, the Giants' entire future now hinges on the NFL draft. There's one fascinating mock draft from A to Z Sports that shows a potential path through all this wreckage. The first move in this scenario isn't to find a direct replacement for Lawrence. No, it's to accumulate power. This mock draft proposes a really radical shift in strategy. Instead of picking at number 5, they trade down, not just once, but twice. First, they trade that number 5 pick to the Steelers for a boatload of other picks. Then they trade one of those acquired picks, number 21, to the Browns for even more picks. So what's the result? They turn one single top 5 pick into an absolute arsenal of draft capital. It's a complete pivot to a volume-based roster rebuild. So, after all that maneuvering, with their first actual selection at pick number 24, they addressed the secondary with safety Dylan Thieneman from Oregon. Now, a lot of people had linked the Giants to another top safety prospect earlier in the draft, but this scenario has them landing Thieneman, who the source describes as a better coverage player and just a tremendous value at this spot. And here's the scouting report from Ryan Roberts at A to Z Sports. He says, at 6 foot and 207 pounds, he's a good blend of size, physicality, and underrated range, does his best work as a mid-hole/short zone robber. Instinctive. And that word instinctive, that is key. They're not just drafting an athlete here, they're drafting a smart, versatile football player to be a centerpiece of a totally rebuilt defense. Now we move to day 2 of the draft. After getting their safety of the future, the Giants enter the second day armed with that whole cluster of picks they got from trading down. And this is where that volume strategy really starts to pay off, as they get to work adding talent not just on defense, but on offense as well. Just look at this haul from day 2. First, at pick 37, they get cornerback Chris Johnson, a fleet cover corner with incredible football IQ who could step in and be their number 1 corner right away. Then they turn to the offense, and they double dip at wide receiver. At 53, they add Ted Hurst, who has length and long speed. Then at 76, they grab Antonio Williams, a chain mover from the slot to be a reliable safety blanket. And to cap off this incredible run, at pick 85, they get linebacker Kyle Louis, an outstanding athlete who covers like a safety. You notice the theme here? They're adding high IQ defensive players and dynamic specific skill set weapons on offense. It's a clear, modern strategy. And the work is not done yet. A championship roster isn't just about the stars, it's about having quality depth. Day 3 of the draft is where a good rebuild is truly cemented. The focus shifts to building out the rest of the team, finding specialists, and taking some calculated chances on high upside guys. And the value just keeps on coming on day 3. At pick 107, they finally address the defensive tackle position, the spot vacated by Lawrence, with Tyler Onyedem, a riser with interesting penetration upside. Then at 146, another corner, Ephesians Prysock, who has rare length. At 186, an offensive lineman, Fa'alithi Fa'amoe, who has starter upside if he moves inside to guard. And finally, at 193, they grab running back Le'Veon Moss, who is described as patient, powerful, and explosive. This single mock draft has them adding potential starters or key contributors at almost every level of the team.
So, we've seen the crisis, the contract trap, the standoff, the total lack of trade partners, and we've seen a potential escape plan, this radical trade-down draft strategy to rebuild the entire roster on the fly. But what does this all mean for the Giants, and maybe more importantly, for the rest of the NFL?
And that leads us to our final question. Is this the new normal? The Dexter Lawrence situation has basically created a blueprint. He just wrote the playbook for how to leverage unguaranteed contracts and coaching changes. So, are we going to see a wave of similar holdouts from other elite players, forcing their teams into these same impossible choices? It really feels like a structural issue in the way NFL contracts are built. What do you think? Is this just a one-off situation, or is this the start of a major trend? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments. And hey, don't forget to subscribe to NFL Nexus for more deep dives just like this one. Thanks for watching.